Jeff Barnes here with Digital Evolution Marketing Group, and today I want to talk about something that's been really troubling a lot of clients of ours, and that is the ability to profitably acquire customers using paid advertising. Now, there's a saying in marketing that he who can spend the most money to acquire a customer wins. And we see this play out over and over and over again in the world, but most business owners don't really grasp this concept for their business. And I'll give you some examples here so that you can really start to bring this forward and into your business. So I want you to think about companies like Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Budweiser or AT&T, T-Mobile, any of the big ones that you see advertising on TV. And you might be thinking, well, they're big brands and I can't advertise like them and it doesn't make sense to even try to be like them. And you're right. However, there's a lesson in what it is they do. You see, those businesses, every single one of them, and every big business you can possibly think of, every company that's listed on the Fortune 500, they know a secret that most small business owners don't know. And the secret that they know is what their customer lifetime value is. They understand this at a granular level. And because they understand what the lifetime value is of every single customer, they know exactly how much money they can spend to acquire a customer. Now, this is a really simple concept in reality to understand. However, practical application and really understanding where these numbers come from gets to be a little bit difficult. So let's break it down and let's make it really, really simple here. I'm going to use an example of a company that a lot of people know or maybe don't know about, but it's called Shopify. Now, Shopify has been around since roughly 2004, maybe a few years before that when they really started working. But they ended up going public and have a market cap in the hundreds of billions range. And it blossomed and grew tremendously because of COVID when people were doing all their shopping online. And what Shopify does allows people to set up stores online, very similar to one of our companies, LaunchCart, that we are using to compete against Shopify. And when we were doing our research for Shopify to try and come up with a better, more nimble product that was easily grasped by a lot of small business owners or people just wanting to get started and selling online, we had to research how much does it cost for Shopify to acquire a customer. Now, almost every business out there is really hush-hush about what those numbers are because they don't want their competition to know. And we had to really dig into this quite a bit and do our own research, and we don't know the exact number, but let me just say it's roughly $1,000 for a company like Shopify to acquire one paying customer. Now, when you think about that, that seems a little bit strange, maybe misguided for some people, because Shopify's plans are, $29 a month, up to $99 a month in some cases, and in stores we were running were costing us $2,000 per month for us to run. But we were in the top 0.1% when we were running our stores online. So we're going to take those outliers out and we're going to look at just the vast majority, the biggest base of customers out there. And if you think that it's $29 per month to pay for a Shopify plan, but it's going to be $1,000, then we're talking a long payback period, right? Even if I went down to just $20 a month to make the math easy, 50 months payback period. That's a long time for somebody to make their money back. But here's the thing that Shopify knows. They know how to increase the average order value or the customer lifetime value of every customer by having upsells. So they take a percentage of sales, maybe they take a percentage of transaction fees through the apps, people sign up for apps in the App Store and so on. And as a result, they can increase the lifetime value of every single customer. So even though it might cost them $1,000 in paid advertising, marketing expenses, employee, staff, whatever it might be, whenever you lump all these numbers together, we know that $1,000 is not going to be recouped by just that $29 per month recurring revenue. Instead, they're going to find ways to increase the overall lifetime value and get that payback period as low as they possibly can. But let's use another example. Let's use a company like Proactive, right? Lotions and potions that people put on their face to look younger, feel better, be more vibrant, whatever it might be. Well, here's the thing. They know that it's going to take them roughly 6 months to recoup the cost of one customer. And as a result, they know that they have to keep every single customer around for at least 6 months just to break even. Now, preferably, they'd keep them around for 7 months, 8 months, and so on. And this is a way they increase the average lifetime value of every single customer. Okay, so understanding your customer lifetime value really helps you to understand the economics of your business. If you don't know what the lifetime value is of your customer, then it's going to be really difficult for you to say, yeah, I want to spend money on advertising, or I'm willing to take on a little bit of debt, whether it's a credit card or taking money out of your savings or just taking money out of your operating accounts and putting it into advertising. Because if you don't know that number, if you don't know how long a customer sticks around, if you don't know how much money they're going to spend with you, then it's a little bit scary to start spending money on advertising. And we know that a lot of small businesses, even mid-sized businesses, don't like doing this unless they really know that they're going to get their money back. So we have to find ways to, one, figure out what that number is. What is the customer lifetime value for your business? The second thing we need to do is find ways to increase the customer lifetime value. And the third thing we need to do is find a way to reduce the payback period on your customer acquisition cost. So let's talk about a few fundamental metrics that you need to have and you need to know in your business when it comes to marketing and advertising. The first is your customer acquisition cost. This is all the expenses that goes into buying a customer. And you can think of this like your marketing team's staff, your budget in your marketing department, the amount of money you're spending on advertising and so on. That money goes into acquiring customers, right? Ideally, that's what you're spending on your marketing budget. And so if you say, okay, I spent $1,000 and I got one customer, we know that the customer acquisition cost is $1,000, okay? $1,000 spent divided by one customer earned, okay? Now, if you are able to get two customers for that same $1,000 you spend, your customer acquisition cost goes down to $500, right? So customer acquisition cost is the amount of money you spend on advertising and marketing divided by the number of paying customers you get. Now, there are other metrics that go into this, but the customer acquisition cost is really a lot more important than anything else. A lot of people will look at their cost per lead. They want to say, okay, well, if I know I can get a lead in for $10, then I can get 100 leads in for, what's that, $1,000, right? So a $10 cost per lead. So if I spend $1,000 on advertising, I can get 100 customers in. Okay? Again, that's cost per lead. So now, when I look at this, I'm going to say, okay, well, great, I got 100 paying leads in. Now, does that really matter? Well, this is the way a lot of flawed business owners think, is that I'm going to look at my cost per lead because I know if I get a certain number of leads in, I'll probably convert a few into sales. But that's not really what you want to know. You don't want to try and build a business on probably. You want to build a business on proven, time-tested strategies and metrics that you know to be accurate. So that you know, if I spend $1,000, I'm going to get X number of customers. If I spend $10,000, I'm going to get 10X number of customers, and so on. And that is why these big businesses are willing to spend all of that extra money in advertising dollars on things like billboards and Super Bowl commercial ads and the sides of buses and things like that. Things that the rest of us are like, why would you spend money on that, right? But they know how much it costs to acquire a customer. And so they're willing to put the money out there knowing that it's going to get that money back and what their lifetime value is, okay? So that's the first thing you need to understand is your customer acquisition cost. The next thing we want to look at is our average order value, okay? A lot of rookie business owners and entrepreneurs start to think of the average order value as the end-all be-all. If I can just increase my average order value, then I'll be able to recoup all the money I spent on advertising to acquire a customer. And as much as we would all like to be able to do that, and trust me, it's great when that happens, when you can spend $1 and get $2 back within 48 hours. That's amazing. That's a great business and you can scale that one to the moon. Now, the problem is there's this thing called, there's the time delay or the lag between when you spend the money on advertising and when you recoup that money. That's called your payback period. So what entrepreneurs and business owners are trying to do is reduce that payback period down to the minimum number it can possibly be to help scale them up and still remain profitable. Okay, so now what we want to talk about is reducing that payback window down so that we can recoup our money as fast as possible so we can continue to spend money on advertising. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. The first thing you can do is you can have a really high-ticket product that you're selling and you know you're going to be able to sell it relatively quickly. However, a lot of the time when you're acquiring a lead, the higher the ticket product is, the longer it takes to close the sale. So we'll use the Gulfstream jets as an example. It might take 18 months to close a sale after you've generated a lead, which means you're going to go negative on that lead generation for a year and a half before you make that money back. Now, if you're Gulfstream, you have that money to burn. You can do that. When you are a small business owner, maybe not. Maybe you can't go 6 months without making any money on a customer. So what we need to do is we need to reduce that window. So how do we reduce that window? Well, this is where marketing systems come in, and we do everything we can to go from lead to sale as quickly as we can. So that's one thing we want to do is we can either increase the price point so we know we can make it up and then some, and we can go a little bit longer in between sales. The next thing we can do is if we want to lower that or shrink that time period down on that payback period, what we can do is we can break the price down even smaller so we know it's going to take less time for somebody to actually purchase, right? Somebody that's buying $1 million jet takes a long time to make a decision. Somebody who's buying a $500,000 house, a little bit less time to make a decision. Somebody who's buying a $50,000 car, maybe even a little bit less time to make a decision. Somebody who's buying a $50 product at the grocery store, a lot less time to make that decision, right? So you need to think about your business and how do we splinter off pieces and parts of your bigger ticket item, your bigger ticket products, so that we can maybe sell a little bit faster. That's one way to look at it. The other thing we can do, and this is where the financial world really comes in and understands this, is that you can turn things into payments, right? If everybody had to pay cash for a car or a house, it would take a very, very long time for them to go make this purchase. However, if you offer financing options or if you've partnered with a bank or a credit card company or someone like that, and you can say, instead of you paying $50,000 for this car, how about you just pay $500 a month, which is exactly what everybody does. It therefore reduces that time for somebody to make that buying decision, which is a really good thing for all business owners, right? And I'm not going to go into all the details about how you can make that profitable when you're selling a $50,000 product and only getting $500 a month, but we'll talk about that some other time. Okay, so the things you can remember and we can take away so far. In order to recoup your customer acquisition costs, you need to sell something. The bigger the ticket is, the higher the sale price is, the longer it's going to take to close somebody, generally speaking. So if you can find a way to finance that or turn it into a continuity program, then you're going to shorten that payback period on that lead acquisition piece. Now, let's break it down and make these numbers really simple for a lot of people. Let's just say you sell a $5,000 service or a product, right? And if you're a chiropractor, you're a dentist, you're an attorney, you are an auto shop mechanic, anything like that, and you're providing a service and you charge something like $5,000, well, and you know that person's going to come in one time in the entire course of their entire life, right? Or they're going to come in a number of times and that package is included in that, right? So a chiropractor might have 50 visits for $5,000. It's a really silly number, but you might do that, right? If that's the case, then you know that your customer lifetime value is $5,000. And the way you determine a customer lifetime value is the number of times they come back times the average order value. That becomes your customer lifetime value. It's a little bit more complex than that, but for argument's sake, we're going to keep it at that. So if you are a car dealership and you know that over the life of a customer, you're going to sell them 5 cars, roughly $50,000 a piece, you know that your customer lifetime value is roughly $250,000. Now, of course, you have to take out the cost of goods and things like that to determine what the profitability is for every single customer. But the reason this is important is because if you know what the profitability is of your customer over their lifetime, that's how much money you can spend to acquire a customer. So if I know that I'm going to make $5,000 on a customer, then I can spend $5,000 on the front end to acquire customers. This goes right back to he who can spend the most money to acquire a customer wins. Because if I can spend $5,000 to acquire a customer and all my competitors can only spend $500, that means my purchasing power is 10 times greater, which means you're going to see my ads in 10 times more places. That is the way customer acquisition cost works. That's why you see the bigger companies advertising everywhere, because they can afford to, because they know that they can spend a lot more money because their lifetime value is much higher. All right? The bigger you are, the deeper your pockets, the longer that payback period can be because you know you're going to make it back. Okay? However, it doesn't mean that small and mid-sized businesses cannot compete in this space. It just means that you need to be really good about increasing the average order value on the front end so you can shorten that window between when you spend the money and you make it back, and increasing one of three things, or really all three things in a business that will help you generate more revenue and a greater lifetime value from a customer. So what are the three things that help you generate a greater lifetime value for a customer? Well, the first one is to increase your prices. We already talked about that. The higher your price, the more money you're going to get from every customer. The more money you make, the higher the lifetime value. The second thing we want them to do is buy more products from you, okay? So maybe they're not just buying one product at a high price, they're buying multiple products at lower prices. And as a result, that's going to increase the average order value. It's going to increase the customer lifetime value. The third thing we want customers to do is come back more and more and more. So repeat purchases. This is where continuity programs come in and membership programs come in. And there's a fourth one that's really hard for a lot of people to measure, but it can really result in increasing your overall customer lifetime value, and that is through referrals. If you can get somebody to refer another person who becomes a customer, the value of customer A who refers customer B becomes even greater, because now you've already spent the money to acquire them, they've already spent money with you, but they're going to refer other people, and so the marketing cost to acquire customer B and C from customer A is a lot lower. So hopefully you followed that. 3 ways to increase the overall lifetime value of a customer. Increase the purchase price, increase the number of products they buy, and increase the number of times they purchase. And the fourth one as a bonus is get them to refer more people. Okay, so that's how you increase your customer lifetime value. The better you are at doing those 3 or 4 things, the easier it is for you to spend more money on advertising and know that you're going to get that money back. So now we've covered a few different characteristics. 1, customer acquisition cost. How much money, time, and energy does it take for you to acquire a single paying customer? Not just a lead, but a paying customer. The next thing is your customer lifetime value. And if you know the profitability of every customer, that's how much money you can spend to acquire a customer. We also talked about the payback period. And the payback period is the time it takes from when you recoup the money you spent to acquire that customer because they bought something from you. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about is the average order value. And this is where a lot of businesses need to spend more time thinking and strategizing on how you can increase the average order value for every single customer. And we can talk a lot about this for every single industry, because there's not a single industry where you can't increase the average order value in some way. Even a grocery store. What do? At the very checkout counter, right where you're ready to go check out, you've already got all your stuff. What do? They put a whole bunch of stuff right there by the checkout stand and say, hey, do you want to buy gum? Do you want to buy Tic Tacs? Do you want to buy candy? How about a newspaper? How about a magazine? How about a drink, right? They try to sell you all this stuff. They might ask you if you want to make a donation. Do you want to buy stamps? There's so many things they can do. At drive-thru, do you want to supersize that? Would you like fries with that, right? That's increasing the average order value through what we call order bumps, bump offers, things like that. And this is a way that you can increase an average order value. Now, you can apply that in any business. And then the fourth one is your customer lifetime value. How much money is a customer going to spend with you over the time that they do business throughout their entire life? Really, really important. It's also really important to know what the profitability is on those customers. So those are the key metrics you need to understand when it comes to marketing and advertising. And next time, maybe we'll talk about ways to improve all of these different metrics so that you can actually scale your business up a lot faster. My name is Jeff Barnes with Digital Evolution Marketing Group. Thanks so much for watching.